Good morning or afternoon, everyone. Today, our group will be presenting about machine learning. First of all, machine learning is a branch of artificial intelligence where computer can learn from data and improve their performance without being explicitly programmed. In simple words, instead of us telling the computer what to do step by step, we give it data and it figures out patterns or solutions by itself. There are three main types of machine learning. That include supervised, unsupervised, and reinforcement learning. Now, let's go through them in detail. First, we have supervised learning. In supervised learning, the machine is trained with labeled data. That means we give the computer examples where the input and the correct output are already known. The system then learns the relationship between input and output so that it can predict results for new data. Supervised learning algorithms rely on input features and their corresponding output labels to learn and make predictions. This process involves several key stages, which is training data and learning phase. In training data, the model is first provided with a labeled dataset that includes input data and the correct output values, while in learning phase, the algorithm analyzes the input-output pairs to learn the underlying relationships, and it adjusts its internal parameters to minimize the difference between its predictions and the actual levels, often using techniques like gradient descent. There are four advantages in supervised learning. The first one is supervised learning excels in accurately predicting patterns and making data-driven decisions. It also establishes evaluation metrics such as accuracy and precision. And advantages of supervised learning include creating complex models for accurate prediction on new data. The last one is supervised learning requires substantial labeled training data and its effectiveness hinges on data quality and representativeness. Disadvantages of supervised learning include overfitting that can lead to poor performance on new data due to capturing noise. And feature engineering is crucial but can be time consuming and requires a domain expertise. Supervised learning also bias in models that may result in unfair predictions. And last but not least, supervised learning relies heavily on labeled training data, which can be costly and time consuming to obtain.
Now I will explain about unsupervised learning. So what is unsupervised learning? It is a type of machine learning where the system works with data that has no labels. So instead of us telling the computer the answers, we let it find patterns, groups, or structures by itself. This is very useful in real life when labeling data is too expensive or even impossible. Now we know what unsupervised learning is. So next we look at the importance of it, the methods, the applications, and the strengths and weaknesses of unsupervised learning. Okay, so why is unsupervised learning important? First, it can find hidden patterns and relationships in data that humans might overlook. Second, it is very helpful in tasks like customer segmentation, anomaly detection, and feature extraction. And lastly, it makes machine learning models more adaptable to new data, and this is very helpful since data keeps changing over time. Methods of unsupervised learning. There are three main methods. The first one is clustering. Here, the system groups similar data points together. For example, in marketing, customers with similar buying habits can be clustered together for promotions. The second method is association. This one finds hidden relationships between items. For example, in retail, if customers often buy bread and butter together, the system can detect this pattern, so businesses can use it for cross-selling or for planning their store layout. The third method is dimensionality reduction. This method is about simplifying data. If we have data sets with too many variables, the system will reduce the data to a smaller set but still keeps the important information. For instance, dimensionality reduction is like turning 100 details about a person into just 10 key ones but still keeping the important info. Now let's look at the applications of unsupervised learning. One common use is fraud detection, where it helps spot suspicious or unusual transactions. In healthcare, it can group patients with similar conditions or detect unusual medical cases. Another big area is market segmentation, where customers are divided based on their behavior, like buying habits. And beyond that, unsupervised learning is also applied in image recognition, recommendation systems like Netflix or Shopee, and even text mining to analyze large amounts of text. Like any method, unsupervised learning has strengths and weaknesses. The strengths are it can find hidden patterns without the need for labels, and it is flexible because it can work well with data that keeps changing. But the weaknesses are it is hard to measure accuracy since there is no label to compare with, and sometimes the system may find meaningless patterns or random patterns, especially if the data is noisy.
Last but not least, reinforcement learning is a branch of machine learning whereby an autonomous agent interacts with an environment and receives feedbacks based on their actions. Nowadays, we can see that reinforcement learning are widely implemented in various different sectors of robotics, such as advertisements, video games, algorithms, and reasoning models. So how does reinforcement learning works? First, an agent is introduced to an environment. It will then start to explore different choices and pathways and receives feedbacks in the form of penalties or rewards. These feedbacks will then be used to determine the best pathway by selecting the most high rewarding pathway chosen. This enables the machine to know that it is on the right track, and this cycle will then repeat until an optimal behavior is obtained. Lastly, reinforcement learning is a great tool for solving complex problems as it requires a direct interaction with the environment. But this machine also faces the disadvantages of being too highly dependent on the reward function and requires a high computational cost and at the same time, time intensive. That's all from us. Thank you.